Yesterday, I was sharing my story, and I didn't think it was that particularly exciting. Like, you know, I hear, like Bill said, the stories. And when you have the experience, it's so exciting to you, you have to figure out who you can tell the story to. So, in the interest of time, I called my daughter, who was very much a part of my experience, to figure out what would other people want to hear. And so I think I'll tell you what I want you to hear, and if there's 2 minutes left, I can get back into how it happened. But, and matter of fact, I went out, I have to look at my scribble notes, because I called her this morning and I was trying to write down. So, after my experience, she noticed that I was different, and she went online to find a book that would help me, and she gave me 2 books, and both by PMH Atwater. And I had no idea who was PMH Atwater. I don't really even know what his near-death experience, although I've heard of it. I've heard of people dying and seeing the light, and that's about it. So it was, it all happened so fast. It came on fast, and it was over with fast, and then all of a sudden I'm back in this world. And because I actually, which I'll get into if I have time, but I got sick. I went to the hospital, and as quickly as I found myself 1 minute at my office desk working, and now I'm in the hospital, I came out of the coma, and within a few hours, they were sending me back home. And the doctors were looking kind of confused, and it took 4 doctors to actually write off my release, because they couldn't, none of them were comfortable with me leaving because I was so sick, but none of them could find a reason to keep me either, you know. So I actually left the hospital with a friend who came to visit, and I had on my hospital gown, and I had on the hospital slippers, and they just wheeled me out of there, and all of a sudden I was back at home, and I'm laying in my bed, and I'm vibrating. I felt like when you have your foot on the brake at the gas light and your car needs a tune-up or something, and it just wants to go, and it's shaking and it's revving, and you're trying to hold it down. And if you take off just a little bit, your car's going if you let up off the brake just a little, your car is going to just take off. That's how I felt, just laying still. So she said that they were noticing things about me, and she tried to figure out how she could help, because she said, I just needed you to know that it was okay to be in the space that you were in at that time, and to be the person that you were at that moment. And she said that I was trying to be like everybody else, but it wasn't working. So it was as though I was trying to act out the part. And I seemed lost, and I had no one to talk to, and I couldn't understand what it was. And I tried to talk to people who couldn't understand, and my family didn't want to talk about it because they were still in the trauma of what had happened. So she said she went online and she looked up. I asked her, well, how did you know what to look up? And she said she went to Amazon. And I said, how did you know what to look up? And she said, I just looked up near-death experience. And I said, how did you know that it was that? And she said, because you died. So the whole event left me afterwards. Some of the after effects I had were that I had to wear earplugs for some time, because my ears were so sensitive to any sound, and they still are. But for example, about in May, and my experience was in September of 2003, and in May of this year, I had gone to visit my mother in Indiana, and I was in the bedroom, guest bedroom, and I went to to the window, and a bird went by. And it felt like the bird whizzed past my ear. You know, so every now and then there'll be an experience in my hearing that just like, whoa, you know, it is very quick. And I'm like, okay, well, it'll remind me that, okay, I've had an experience. Okay. In the experience, I had anaphylactic shock. I ate something. And the reason I brought this book up here is because I was in the conversation yesterday, I was trying to figure out how to make it important for people to understand that what you take into your body can cause certain things. I was actually desperate to lose weight. I said, okay, I'm going to start exercising, and I'm going to first cleanse my body, and I'm going to do all. So I had this system in place, and I cleansed my body a little too much, and I got too squeaky clean, I guess, and all my cells, which ordinarily could handle toxins, couldn't. So I ate something that I thought was healthy. It was a trail mix. It had sulfites in it, so if anybody wants to read what sulfites can do. And I didn't know that, of course, but the sulfites, I'm sure, is what caused the problem. The doctors listed it as a asthmatic exacerbation, which actually it was a textbook anaphylactic shock. So my doctor afterwards, not the doctor who saw me in the emergency room because he misdiagnosed it, but the doctor I saw afterwards said that her brother had actually had 3 incidents with the near-death experience, and so an anaphylactic shock. So that was helpful to me. So what I experienced was going into the tunnel, seeing my brother, who's deceased, and he's an older brother who kind of speaks to me like I'm his little sister still from there, you know, and he said to me, no. I mean, like, there was no conversation. It was just in the spirit. He said, no, go back. And I didn't want to go back. And so my daughter told me that during the time that I was in, and I saw the light, which it took me a while to figure out what that light was. But my daughter told me that there was a period afterwards where in the hospital I was trying to leave again. And so it's clear to me, I think if my main message I want to say this morning is that prayer really affects what's going on this side with the other side. Because when I was taken to the hospital and she was in prayer and she was traveling to the emergency room, I'm sure that exactly at the time she was praying is the time that they were just in the nick of time getting me intubated because I had flatlined. And I'm sure that based on what she told me, there was a period in the next day while I was out of critical condition that I was actually trying to leave. And she said it didn't make sense that I wasn't, you know, how can she die? She said, but it was clear. She said, all of a sudden I looked too peaceful. And she said, wait a minute, what's going on here? And she told me that I was trying to leave, and she started doing things and rubbing on me, and particularly my feet, and telling everybody she's trying to leave here, and they started praying. But I remember that in the spirit, I remember wanting to go. I remember feeling the struggle of not wanting to be on this physical side, and I remember that peace, which is an awesome peace when you're there. Thank you.